This is the Construction Europe podcast with the editor, Sandy Guthrie, and deputy editor, Helen Wright. This podcast is produced by KHL Group, first for global construction information. Go to www.khl.com for more details. This is the podcast for May 2014. In the news this week:
optimism for European equipment market.
UK infrastructure delays examined.
Construction output grows again, according to Eurostat.
Slovak cartel fines upheld.
Road and rail projects could be the driving force in Russia as well as Central and Eastern Europe.
And Tata Steel raises its profile in UK.
Some cautious optimism is being seen in the Western European construction equipment market, and that's despite the latest data falling to 22% below the 10-year average. A period of restrained growth is forecast across the region for the next 5 years. And that's according to data from Off-Highway Research, which has found that while the 10-year historical average level of sales in the region has been in the order of about 142,000 units a year, the forecast this year suggests that nobody saw the industry getting back to that level in the next 5 years, with it struggling to around 125,000 units. Off-Highway Research said that the market, unable to sustain the strong recovery of 2010 and 2011, posted declines of 4% in 2012 and 6% last year. It said that many suppliers believed the bottom had been reached in 2013, and a cautious note of optimism was evident during discussions held by Off-Highway Research with manufacturers and dealers in the compilation of its annual review. It said it now appeared likely that future demand would undergo a period of restrained growth across the region for the next 5 years, settling at around 120,000 to 125,000 units a year. There was a warning, however, that hopes of a more robust resurgence in demand would have to be tempered by several considerations, notably the disparate economic forecasts for several of the region's markets, which Off-Highway Research said were doing little to bolster the confidence of potential equipment buyers.
A lack of relevant information is being blamed for public opposition to large infrastructure projects in the UK, along with the failure to tackle residents' legitimate concerns and using the wrong decision makers and spokespeople. The CBI, that's the Confederation of British Industry, commissioned research that looked at the reasons behind public opposition, and this can often result in large infrastructure projects such as new roads, rail, power generation and aviation capacity being delayed substantially. The research found that the public needed to be convinced that tough choices on upgrading national infrastructure were necessary. The CBI said its poll of more than 1,000 members of the public by Ipsos Mori showed that the government and businesses needed to do a much better job of explaining the UK's infrastructure investment needs, and shifting the focus to why it mattered locally and what benefits such projects would bring. It revealed that 65% agreed that decisions should be delayed so that the public's views could be heard properly, even if this meant that infrastructure weaknesses were not tackled when they needed to be. That compared with only 24% who did not think decisions should be delayed. Nearly half of respondents said they were satisfied with the state of national infrastructure, with only a quarter, 27%, dissatisfied. However, according to the World Economic Forum, the UK ranks only 28th in the world when it comes to the quality of infrastructure.
Construction output grew 6.7% year-on-year in the Eurozone in February and was up 5.5% across all member states, or the EU28, and that's according to the latest data from Eurostat. The figures continued the strong start to the year reported in January and marked a break in the long-standing trend of falling year-on-year construction output that dominated in 2013. The strongest year-on-year increases in February were registered in Slovenia, where construction output grew 33.1%, Hungary 28.3%, Spain 23.9%, Poland 14.4%, and Germany 14.1%. The largest decreases were seen in Romania, where output fell 14.7%, Portugal 11.5%, and Italy 7.9%.
In the largest cartel case in the history of Slovak competition law, a judgment made in 2006 has been upheld by the Supreme Court of the Slovak Republic, and the 6 construction companies involved have had to pay a total of nearly 45 million euros. There is no opportunity for a further ordinary appeal, as it's called, and the conclusions set out by the Anti-Monopoly Office of the Slovak Republic have been upheld. In 2006, the Anti-Monopoly Office imposed the fine for concluding a cartel agreement on Strabag, Doprastav, Betamont, Inženierské stavby, Skanska, Motor Engil, and Inženierie Kostrakau. 2 years later, the regional court in Bratislava, Slovakia, annulled the decision of the Anti-Monopoly Office. However, in December 2013, the Supreme Court overruled the decision of the regional court and dismissed all actions made by the construction companies, upholding the conclusions of the Anti-Monopoly Office. The companies had to pay the fines within 30 days from the 30th of March, the day that judgment became valid. In 2006, the Anti-Monopoly Office concluded that companies had engaged in a cartel agreement violating the provisions of the Act on Protection of Competition and Art in the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union.
Investments in civil engineering and infrastructure, or lack thereof, are proving to be the main driving forces behind prospects for construction markets in Russia, Central and Eastern Europe, and that's according to findings from European market research firm PMR. In Russia, PMR said the construction industry's slowdown looked set to continue this year after contracting 1.5% year-on-year in 2013. PMR attributed the slowdown to a poor performance in the civil engineering construction sector as new developments continue to be postponed. Meanwhile, PMR said road and rail developments look set to drive construction in Central Europe. It said Bulgaria's construction market was on the way to positive growth yet again after a consolidation period in 2011 to 2013. And it said the Czech Republic was starting to see the rewards of a number of civil engineering construction projects which were launched in 2013 as work started in 2014. PMR said roads and railway developments would lead this growth as work began on a government-approved nationwide strategy of infrastructure improvements. Slovakia, meanwhile, is set to receive €3.9 billion in EU funds for transport infrastructure works between 2014 and 2020, according to PMR. And the Hungarian construction market is also predicted to grow, and that's up to 10% this year, with civil engineering and non-residential construction the sectors most likely to drive the industry up until 2019. Finally, PMR said construction in heavy industry and railway development looked set to propel Slovenia's construction industry in the years ahead. Slovenia's construction output dropped 5% last year and is expected to fall by up to 3% in 2014. However, according to PMR, 2015 will see a market turnaround as macroeconomic forecasts show encouraging signs of improvement.
Tata Steel has opened the UK's largest profiling centre for steel plate, and it's increasing its processing capacity by about 50%. Its headquarters are in Mumbai, India, while the European operations of Tata are in the UK and the Netherlands. The new profiling centre is at its Steel Park plant at Wensfield in the West Midlands, close to Birmingham. Mick Horan, Director of Heavy Gauge Decoiling and Plate Profiling, said that by relocating profiling from other Tata sites, it was increasing its capacity from 32,000 tonnes a year to 47,000 tonnes. He said the investment of £3.1 million, that's €3.8 million, was so that it could respond better to customer requirements. The profiling centre transforms steel plate into shaped and machined components, from high-volume production runs for off-road vehicle wheels and booms for earth-moving equipment, to large one-off components for construction projects and specialist engineering applications. The company has invested in 2 new high-definition plasma profiling machines, and it said this would reduce lead times and increase responsiveness. Now, here's Helen with the business news.
Crushing and screening equipment manufacturer Metso has rejected an all-share takeover from UK engineering company Weir Group. Weir made an approach to Metso at the end of March to open discussions on a possible merger. Contractor LSR Group has been awarded a contract reported to be worth 28 billion rubles, that's 568 million euros, to redevelop the derelict ZIL industrial zone in Russia's capital, Moscow, building a new 1.57 million square metre residential district. A €410 million contract to construct 13.4 kilometres of the D1 motorway in northern Slovakia has been awarded by the country's National Motorway Authority. The lead contractor is Salini Impregilo with a share of 75%. Bernd Bruno, chairman of Finnish contractor Lemminkäinen, said its 2013 operational results were extremely unsatisfactory. It reported an operating loss of 90.9 million euros compared to profit for 2012 of 50.4 million euros. The result was hit by fines of 65.6 million euros from a cartel case that the company is currently appealing and write-downs of 20.1 million euros on commercial properties. Lemminkäinen's president and CEO Timo Kotamäki, as well as its CFO Robert Orman, also left the company last month. A consortium between Italian contractor Salini Impregilo and Austria's Strabag has been awarded a €380 million contract to build an exploratory tunnel through the Alps. The 38-kilometre Tulfes-Fonsk tunnel will be constructed ahead of the main bore for the Brenner Base Tunnel, BBT, an €8.6 billion rail tunnel which will connect Austria with Italy.
April saw the announcement of the most significant merger in the construction industry since the merger of SGE and Group GTM in 2001 to form Europe's largest contractor, Vinci. In the Construction Europe finance pages, Chris Slight said that the proposed all-share merger of equals between Lafarge and Holcim would create by far the largest cement and aggregates company in the world, with annual revenues in the region of €32 billion. Although both boards have approved the deal and say they have secured the agreement of core shareholders, there are still formidable hurdles ahead. There would have to be significant divestments to satisfy competition concerns, and figures of €4 billion of divestments are being bandied about. Although both companies have recognised they will have to shed business, there could still be opposition from competition authorities around the world. Chris pointed out that, unfortunately, the cement and aggregates industry was no stranger to prosecutions for anti-competitive behaviour and operating cartels. On top of this, there are several countries where both Holcim and Lafarge operate in which authorities are already taking the view that the industry is over-consolidated and harming competition. The UK is one example where this issue has been rumbling on for several years. However, within days of the merger announcement, Brazil's antitrust regulator, Conselho Administrativo de Defensa Econômica, CADE, said it would force asset sales equivalent to 24% of the country's cement capacity to encourage competition. There's more about this in the May issue of Construction Europe magazine.
In its regular column, Pinsent Masons looked at opportunities in Africa, where European contractors could be considering bidding for projects. But there are key tax issues to be considered. With governments keen to maximise tax revenues and local tax authorities being short of resource and sometimes of business awareness, disputes can arise. If so, Pinsent Masons said it is important to approach these as you would with a commercial dispute, seek a shared understanding of the facts and agreement on the scope of any technical differences of view. Keep control of the issue and, wherever possible, use negotiation and mediation skills to seek to reach an outcome which is acceptable to both parties. In summary, there are significant opportunities to be found in construction projects in Africa, but inevitably there are also risks to be managed. Tax issues need to be well understood so that they can be built into the project plan, and a proactive and cooperative approach should be taken.
With the European elections taking place between May the 22nd and 25th, FIEC has published a 10-point manifesto for action. In it, it defines areas for action which it says play a key role in establishing an adequate framework for ensuring that the construction sector can be an efficient lever for growth and jobs. Among the points it's making is a call for investment for growth and jobs, despite the need for budgetary discipline. It's calling for the EU to allow greater flexibility in the Growth and Stability Pact calculations when member states implement EU policy decisions and invest in infrastructure and building projects. On infrastructure, it said that in spite of the Connecting Europe facility, Europe lacked a decisive approach to the construction and maintenance of infrastructure. It said sound infrastructure that's fit for purpose is a prerequisite of a vibrant and sustainable EU economy. Among other calls for action, it said that correct and timely payment needed to be respected all over the supply chain, saying that the Late Payment Directive needed to be properly implemented. There's more in the issue.
CC highlighted concerns over the fact that the European Commission is expected to adopt a proposal for new off-highway exhaust emissions laws, but the transition could be challenging for manufacturers. The law will no longer differentiate between spark ignition petrol engines and compression ignition diesel engines above 56 kilowatts. Instead, all fuel types and ignition methods of engines above 56 kilowatts will be grouped together. Limit values for the new Stage 5 will include a particulate number or PN limit for power classes between 19 and 560 kilowatts, while the limits for nitrogen oxides will not be changed. CC had strongly opposed lower NOx limits in the past, advocacy that it said was successful. Secretary-General Ralph Wetzel said CC had called upon the European Commission to align the limit values with the corresponding US legislation. Another topic still under discussion is the replacement of engine provision. The Commission indicated that the replacement engine derogation in the present directive would not be continued in the proposed new non-road machinery emissions regulations. This is a major concern for CC. It would mean that prior stage engines could not be produced for replacement purposes after the new stage has come into force. There's more in the issue.
This month's features included a look at components. I took a look at some of the latest innovations that might help make a new machine stand out from the crowd, including bearings, drivetrains, turbos, lubrication, and even cameras, among other things.
And I looked at mini excavators. Many manufacturers are forecasting growth in mini excavator sales this year and are keen to ensure customers get value for money when investing in new machines. So I looked at how operating costs were being lowered.
That's it for this month. Please don't forget that you can download a digital version of the magazine or the tablet version from www.khl.com. Until next time, it's goodbye from Helen and me. Goodbye.
Bye.
This podcast was produced by Construction Europe magazine and is copyright KHL Group. Construction Europe is part of the KHL Group, which also produces Access International, American Cranes and Transport, Access Lift and Handlers, Construction Latin America in both Spanish and Portuguese, Demolition and Recycling International, International Construction, World Construction China, International Construction Turkey, International Cranes and Specialized Transport, and International Rental News. Details of these magazines and the sector-specific weekly e-newsletters are at www.khl.com, where other podcasts and videos are also available.